Introducing the new low-fat Subway Buffalo Chicken. Spicy chicken, Cool Light Ranch, one hot sandwich. All the flavor you love with 7 grams of fat. For a limited time, hurry to Subway and enjoy the newest part of a Subway Fresh Fit meal. The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the Sports Guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
All right, we have Chuck Klosterman in the BS Report. We went so long with him in part 1, we had to cut it into a second part. He's got a new book coming out, Eating the Dinosaur, released on October 20th. You can get it bookstores, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, all the .coms. And right now he's on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, part 2 of the Simmons Klosterman BS Report.
Well, aren't you touring like crazy for this book?
I'm doing...
Are you doing readings or just signings?
I'm doing signings, and I'm not sure yet. It's going to depend on...
Oh, you got to do readings. People want that. People expect it.
Really? Readings?
They want to be able to see what you're actually like. They want to be able to ask you questions, and they want to sort of hear. Because when you read even a little part of the book, then they'll get a sense of sort of your mind frame while writing it, the voice you intended to be read as.
You don't think
people kind of expect? I mean, like Bill Clinton just does book signings. I mean, I think you should do some readings.
I'm doing 3 weeks, and then I'm doing like another week in February. But the last one I did was 4 years ago, and I can't imagine doing another one. So I feel like this will be the one time to get out and see some cities and meet some people and all that stuff. It's going to be interesting. I have to say I'm a little worried about my stamina because I turned 40 last month, and I'm worried that I'm turning into one of those guys that gets up early and goes to bed at like 11. Like I barely made it through Mad Men last night. See, I'm older than you. You don't have to worry about this yet.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I think you can take a lot of inspiration from Mark from the Real World reunion shows. I mean, he's not on this year, but he was competing pretty well as a 38-year-old, right?
That's pretty good. Yeah, but he might have had some natural enhancements.
Possible. Have you been watching the after shows this season?
Listen, I was in a New York City bar. My friend Jacoby had this bar where we were upstairs watching the ruins in a bar, and it was like 5 of us, and it was more exciting than any sporting event I've watched in a bar this year. I mean, the show has gone 3 higher levels than I thought it was capable of. The after shows are unbelievable.
Well, they're bringing up steroids now in conversation in the after shows, which I think is interesting. They're much more forthcoming than baseball was.
Well,
the participants themselves are making accusations.
Yeah, well, the last time somebody got voted off, it was Isaac, and said something about how, I wasn't big enough. Next time I'll do some of the stuff they're doing, and I'll be back, and I'll be unstoppable.
Well, they seem to be prepping him to be a major character on this season, and yet he is not there.
Right.
They really are fascinating people to me. Like, I think it's fascinating that Wes will get right in their face and say that he's the best player there, and no one contradicts him. For some reason, they assume to believe that is true. So now, is the reason that Ev thought Kellyanne was using steroids is because she's with Wes? And that the assumption is that their house must be like, I don't know, like Chris Robinson's house in the mid-'90s or something? It's just like filled with Beatles and
I'm ashamed by how many emails I've been. Do you want to be on some of these emails where we discuss this?
Oh,
we can include you because we've been analyzing this. I want to know,
I'm on my own separate. I have there's like 5 or 6 of my friends who are really into it too. So we kind of have our own separate. I would guess in some ways the conversation would be similar. I, for example, was also very pleased in one of the after shows that despite sort of being an arrogant jerk in every possible context, Wes does seem to fully understand the rules of Monopoly.
Yeah.
He knows that you can't mortgage a hotel,
Well, what about the part where, he was so laid back in the after show, but yet we had just watched a show where he was this screaming, hot-tempered lunatic maniac, and then he was able to calmly dissect it on the after show. Is that road rage? Like, what is that?
Have mended some fences, which makes me suspect that Wes remains on the show and they end up winning the championship together, and they're bonded through their mutual greed.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because it's like on that show, there's just the idea. I mean, that's what was so interesting about the Ev situation. She seems to be the first person to have ever made a decision on that show, not based on money. It was actually based on hatred.
Well, but then there was that weird part where she's like, I don't want to go against my friend. I don't want to humiliate my friend. You know, that's basically the underlying thing of I'll kill her in the duel and I don't want to do that to her. So instead they go out and she toys with her like a cat with a mouse for like 15 minutes. And the girl's like sweating and she's dying and everyone's just standing there with this, you know, defiant look on her face and her legs aren't moving. And she just basically ripped her heart out anyway. And then she jumped off. Like, what was the point of that?
Well, although I feel like Kellyanne and Ev have different views of that relationship. Do not think Kellyanne cares the way Ev cares. And I feel it's part of the reason Ev keeps getting manipulated in these challenges because she has a fraction of goodness in her. And virtually every other cast member has none. And they can just see that little fraction of goodness and really manipulate her. She just gets used time and time again.
So this is your favorite show? This is your favorite show?
Oh, no.
Your favorite reality show?
My favorite show?
Reality show.
I still would say Survivor is my favorite reality show. The reunion show, the Real World Road Rules challenges, they're certainly my favorite to talk about with people. I think that the fact that it's only a half-hour investment and nothing really happens, and I feel like I've had a relationship
it's an hour now.
with characters now. What?
It's an hour now. They stretched it out.
Oh, it is an hour. It feels like a half hour because there's so many ads.
It goes by so fast.
I watch it, I tape it, and it only takes about a half hour to watch it, I should say.
This is true. Hey, I have a question for you.
Okay.
If I wanted to take steroids for the Real Road Road Rules duel, and I wanted to be all bulked up, do I continue to take the steroids during the competition, or do I cycle and peak right before I go away?
Well, I have heard that MTV typically does have, considering how much booze they feed them, a pretty strangely strict policy about drugs in those houses. Now, I could be totally wrong about this, but it does seem strange to me that nobody ever seems high on these shows.
Yeah, that is true.
You know, so I wonder if it would be very difficult to use. I mean, I don't know enough about non-injectable steroids. I mean, is it possible? I know there's, like, obviously creams and clear substances, but, like, are there any you can take by your mouth? Are there any that look like, say, creatine, but they're actually steroids?
Well, then, but where would you have them? They're all in the same house. And
but
it's like if you had needles and stuff, you could have them.
I mean, you can obviously buy stuff at GNC, right? They're not going to say you can't bring that stuff in.
Right.
So, I mean, like I say, I don't know enough about. I mean, seems like it would be tough in a house full of cameras to secretly use. You know, but I don't know if do they. I mean, it's not the level of the NFL. It would seem like if they spent any time in the off season using steroids, the bulk they would build would be enough to, you know, allow you to better able to shadow fight somebody or something, you know, who typically is just, you know, a drunk or whatever, struggling actor.
That's the theory that I have decided on. I think they time their cycles so that they know. And I think that's one of the reasons, like, people were so disappointed they didn't know Wes was going to be there because they would have gone with a higher dosage. They're like, I thought I could use the low dosage. Wes is here. Damn it. Why didn't you tell me you were coming?
No, I got the sense, though, that now that they're trying that Johnny Bananas was implying, that there is a schism in this, that there are some people on steroids and some people who are not. Now, I'm not sure if that's true. I mean, because Wes is the best athlete. He doesn't have that much mass, though. I mean, compared to, like, Dunbar or something.
Right.
But when you think about it, the people they hate, Wes and Dunbar, do seem the most likely candidates in CT.
Do you think that the Mitchell Report will reconvene to figure this out and maybe interview all of these people? It's a worthy cause.
I don't think there's ever going to be a real journalistic investigation of this unless I do it.
Well, listen.
I'm the only person I can imagine who would care at all and be willing to, you know, and have the access to. I mean, I'm probably throwing my life away by not pursuing the real steroid story about real world challenges.
I've been dying for you, and I've said this, that my ultimate, if I had to do a fantasy draft of my ultimate Chuck Klosterman book topics, Number one would be for you to dive into this world for like 2 years. Hunter Thompson, Hell's Angel style.
It's a
just
good
go
idea.
in.
But, I wonder if they led people on. Like, you'd think someone would have tried that before,
Yeah, but people probably have. They just haven't been good writers, maybe. There hasn't been like a real writer who's really said, you know what, I need to figure out this world. I need to immerse myself into this whole culture of...
Well, there was a good writer for GQ who did one once. But
who?
He wasn't as interested in the show as we are.
What was his angle, though?
Well, his angle was basically about that these people all have these strange relationships in Los Angeles where they're kind of interconnected forever. But the angle more of the story, it's been a while since I've read it, but had more to do it was almost introducing how weird this is to people who have no idea it even exists. What I'm looking for is somebody who writes a story really almost like an insidery story for people who care too much.
Yes, I want like a Breaks of the Game style book about this whole world. That's what I'm looking for. Somebody who spends like 3 years. Like, I'll tell you, I've been out here 7 years, and I always hear oh, I saw this person, I saw that person. The most fascinated I've ever been by a celebrity info sighting was that somebody told me a couple years ago that at Barney's Beanery, which is like one of the only sports bars in L.A., this girl who was on the Road Rules, I think her name was Kendall. She was a waitress at Barney's Beanery. And this was like 2 years after her show had been on. And I was like so flabbergasted. I had like 40 questions. And I was like, blah, blah, blah. And the person was just saying, dude, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just telling you she was a waitress. And I was like, no, I need more. Wait, how did she end up as a waitress? She's trying to be that to me, that parcel of information was more interesting than any other celebrity anecdote I've heard. How do you end up as a waitress out here?
It would be hard to bring that up to the waitress as she's waitressing. That would really be, I guess, in some ways highlighting the apex of her life, but in another way, really driving home the strangeness and sort of the despair of her future.
No, but it's not the apex as much as, so she's on this show, and I remember from the show she didn't live here. So clearly she moved here as like, I'm a waitress, I can now parlay my appearance on that show into more things. Now, she's not the only person who's thought that. There's, been 20, 25 people who have been on these shows who that was their game plan? And other than Eric Nees, who has it worked out for?
Well, it's confusing, though, because you have to realize the people going on these shows, when they're applying, are between the ages of 18 and 22.
Right.
Some of them you don't really know what the motive of a 19-year-old is. Some people think that it's a way, like if they're really craven, that they can see even from that age. It's just any exposure on television can sort of make me, and a lot of them have done that. But I do think that there is still an element of people who apply for the show just because they're weird. Just because it looks fun to them, and they, and sometimes it does look fun. I have to say, whenever they show the stuff they're not supposed to show us or whatever, and it seems like it would be a fun thing to do during that age. So, she may have thought to herself, well, maybe I can parlay this into an acting career, but really had no interest or ability as an actor, and realized that very quickly. And then she's like, well, I'm just a person now, because there's nothing wrong with being a waitress.
No, I'm saying that. I felt like she was out here. People who are waitressing in L.A. who aren't from here are doing it because they're trying to break into the business. So that's the part I wanted to find out. Did she think?
I guess just the nature of her being there in general.
Yeah. The other people I'm interested in finding out more about are the people that were on the show and now refuse to go on the challenges. And it's like they've turned their back on this life. Like I remember in Hawaii, Colin, the guy who dated Amaya and got out, he's turned down, he didn't go to the reunion show, he's turned down every request for them to ever do anything. Was his experience that bad?
LA cast who are like that. Like that guy Dominic ended up, I think, he worked for film, like the magazine Film Threat for a while.
Right.
And he was on there with a blonde-haired guy who was he's either going to become a lawyer, an accountant, or something.
He was an accountant, Aaron.
Yeah, and they've had, I think, no relationship with that show since then. I can see why. It's I don't know if you're not somebody who's interested in the details of the program, to hear that someone had been on a reality show tends to be, immediately changes your perception, which brings us to the next thing we should talk about. What did you think of the Balloon Boy? I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet.
Good segue. I have witnesses. I sent it to my friend Jimmy and my friend Sal when the balloon was still in the air. Hoax, guaranteed. And my reason was that this family had been on wife swap. That's all I needed to know.
Exactly the point that changed for me, too. I was like, prior to that, the first thing is when I heard about it and I went to the clip, my first thought was, first of all, this balloon is much faster than I anticipated.
Yep.
And it did seem like sort of almost a viable flying craft. So I was like, I didn't even know such a thing existed. When I heard that there was a kid inside of it, and that his name was Falcon.
Falcon was another red flag.
For a moment, I did think that maybe this was going to be the origin story for our first real superhero.
Oh.
That the kid climbs in, he manages to fly around this craft, he lands the craft, he comes out, he's Falcon, and then sort of spends the rest of his life becoming like a full-time Sully character, where he just like does all these amazing things in the air, you know, or kind of like maybe like a more heroic Murdoch from the A-Team or something, just like a flight genius, you know. Then they said that his parents were on Wife Swap, and not even a reality show, but particularly Wife Swap seems to be very, you know.
That was a red flag.
Now I think it's I have a friend who's really into this, and her argument is she felt which really verified the hoax was when the kid threw up on the Today Show.
Yep.
Because she is certain that the parents drugged him and made him vomit in order to sort of change the conversation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay, I guess there's this thing, Ecopec or something. I don't even know what it is, but you can give it to a kid and make him vomit.
Interesting.
You know,
yeah, that's true.
You have kids. What's it called?
Epa something. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what it is. It's like she knows what it is. She was arguing. Her name is Phoebe. She was arguing that they maybe fed this kid this, and it you know, and then that you know, she was totally right about all of this, because then on Saturday we were at the bar, and I had read that the cops say it's not a hoax now. The cops are saying that they don't think it's a hoax.
Please.
And sure enough, they had went to the people and said, "We don't think it's a hoax. Tell us everything about your life." And then it was a sting operation, like the one they did on Lawrence Taylor.
You left out the third component of the hoax, which is that they believed in aliens.
Well,
That's
now
at the time.
That's what their assistant said, right?
I'm just saying, when the balloon was in the air, and I quickly Googled them, I found out about wife swap. I found out that they were fervent believers in alien life, and I found out that the kid's name was Falcon, and that was it. I was hoaxed from that point on.
Although the kid being named Falcon, though, I mean, you can't. I mean, so do you think that they selected him because of his name? That they had other kids to pick, and they're like, we should pick the kid named Falcon?
I don't even think Michael Jackson would have named his kids Falcon. That's a really strong statement to go with Falcon. Yeah, I think this had probably been planned for 2-3 years, and then to find out, people still didn't know if it was a hoax or not, and meanwhile the information came out that they had been shopping a reality show. Like, that's red flag number 4. You're shopping a reality show, and randomly this happens?
The whole house of cards was falling apart at that point. I mean, so you never believed the kid was in the balloon?
Never. Not after I saw the wife swap thing. And also, I thought the balloon was moving too fast for having. If somebody was inside that weighed 40 pounds, it seemed like it would have been bobbing more, and it would have been a lot more choppy. I was stunned that when it came out that the kid had been in the attic or whatever for 5 hours. Like, as a father of a 4.5-year-old, that was even more implausible to me. Hey, you can't get your kid to stay anywhere for 4.5 hours. Like, I feel like they probably drugged him that day, probably knocked him out for 5 hours. Because you can't get a kid to stay in one room, period, for 5 hours.
That's not beyond the realm of possibility. I mean, I just, or did the kid vomit because they had told him you got to lie about this and the pressure got to him? But 6-year-olds don't mind lying; they don't care. I mean, I can't believe that would do it. I guess he could just be sick, but that was a sort of strange detail in the whole thing.
Ooh, was that your wife?
No, I accidentally hit the button on my phone.
Oh.
Sorry.
Tell us quickly about married life, because we have to go soon.
Oh, well, I like being married. I do. It's a lot like my relationship was before, except I feel more relaxed now.
Because she's more relaxed.
I really feel like I'm in the middle of my life now. Because you spend so much of your life with one of two pursuits. You're trying to find, like a successful relationship, You want to have a good career. So, you're always like, well, I'm doing this job in order to later get this job. And then I wrote this so I could write this book and then that book, And the other side is like, I met this girl and it was really serious and it got really weird and then it broke up, But now that I feel like I'm in the middle. I'm right on the plateau. It's like I do what I do now. I write these books for a living. That's what I do. I'm married now. This is the person I'm with. So I feel very relaxed that almost a sense of relief that there hasn't been any huge failure in my life.
And what about the experience of a wedding where basically all the people you care about are in the same place?
I have to say it was the most fun I've ever had in a weekend.
It really is. It's so underrated because the wedding planning sucks.
We made a great decision.
Yeah.
And I'll tell this to anybody out there who's getting married and they want advice, okay? Here's the advice. Get married not on Saturday. Get married on Sunday. And have a big party on Saturday and Friday.
Oh.
Because the problem that people often say about their wedding, they don't even get to talk to anybody, right? That they're just always glad-handing and seeing all the relatives and stuff. So we had a party on Friday, and then on Saturday, we rented an entire bar, and we had the band EL No play. They're an ELO tribute band. They dress like ELO, and they play ELO songs.
Wow.
And they're awesome, and people loved it, and it was really fun, and it was just really great to sort of be with the kind of people who kind of you're drinking crazy people on Saturday really late. So then on Sunday you can mostly deal with people you have more of an adult relationship with. Mm-hmm. I would strongly suggest to anyone getting married that before their wedding they book a 70s themed tribute band, particularly one that kind of plays art rock.
Okay. Interesting. We had kind of similar weddings, except for our wedding was Saturday, but it was the same kind of principle of it was a 2-day event. And what were your numbers though? Did you keep it? Did you have like a crazy number, or was it like 100 people?
188, I think.
How much?
188.
Oh, that's pretty high.
Well, I don't know. Here's the thing about another thing about weddings I found is during the whole process of getting married, everyone who's married asks you how many people are coming. And if it's 5 more than they had, they think your wedding is huge. And if it's 5 less, they're like, oh, that's not very big. Like, everyone uses their wedding as the normative size.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I really, there's something I already miss, though, about being engaged.
Yeah.
Which I think I'm going to miss forever because it was so great. During that period before you get married, you can get out of anything. All you have to do is say you're getting married. If you don't return emails, people don't mind. They think he's really busy getting married. Don't return phone calls. Say no to work opportunities. Anything you want to do, you can just sort of assume the person knows you're getting married and will immediately relax.
Oh, you're really
and now that's not the case anymore.
You're really going to like having kids then. Because that's like, you get another 4 months each time for that.
But see, those people aren't lying. That's the difference. When I was engaged, the fact that we were getting married really didn't involve me at all.
Yeah.
Like, I had almost no more responsibilities, except to occasionally agree or disagree about things I had no opinion about ever. Like, what kind of frosting would be on red velvet cupcakes.
Right.
Like, of course. But if you have a kid, it's different, because the kid is actually alive. And, like, you just have, it has all these requirements, shelter, food.
I have a newsflash for you. It'll happen again with the kids. The wife ends up becoming the alpha dog. You're an ornament with the wedding. You're just kind of there. You're one of the props. You're like the cake. The wife is, normally is going to pick almost everything that happens, and your job is to show up and not throw up during the wedding. And basically be congenial to everybody. Really, that's it. It's perfect.
But you're sort of saying that's how it is in life.
No. I'm saying when you have...
you become a prop in life, and that you're...
No, not for all life. Especially if your wife is breastfeeding. The first, 3 months of the kid, there's not a lot you can do. If it's bottle feeding, it's different. Then it's a lot more 50-50. But if it's a breastfeeding situation... So I would encourage breastfeeding for you.
What is it with people who have kids that they immediately want everyone to have kids? I'll never understand that. I'll just immediately.
I've written about this. You know why? Because we resent the people that don't have kids because they're like, oh yeah, we went to San Francisco last weekend. It was great. Really? Oh, yeah, and we're going to, we're going skiing next week. That's going to be great, too. Oh, that sounds interesting. And then deep down, you're like, yeah, I can't do any of that stuff.
Well, I mean, that seems awful that you would do that.
No, but there's light.
Be unhappy.
There's light at the end of the tunnel, though. As soon as the kids get to the point where you can leave them alone for the weekend, it's back to normal. Which I am at that point, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I got to admit, you don't seem to be too anchored down by your children. You're always going to Vegas for something, or you're going to like a football card convention or something. It doesn't seem as though you are too pinned down by this compared to virtually every other guy I know with children.
I do short-term trips, though. Like, even with the book tour, I staggered it so that I was only away for like 6-7 days at a time. Because what happens is...
No one wants to be away for 2 months.
No. Well, the thing is...
Metallica, where, you got to go on the road and prove your worth or whatever,
Well, but it does make me wish, I wish I had written a basketball book where I followed a team for a year. Because now I probably wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't want to be away from my kids. But, like, those books that, like what Jack McCallum did with Unfinished Business or
totally.
Halberstam did. I think that is, like...
Well, even that Real World book you just mentioned, that sort of is off the table now. I'm not going to spend 2 years alone. I mean, that in some respects, writing really is a single man's game. But... at the same time, it's something you can do in your house. You just have to sort of change what you write about.
True. Yeah, I think when you get older...
Are you going to ever write a book about, like, being a father?
I don't think so. I can't imagine doing that. Yeah, that's a book basically only dads would read, or prospective dads. Like, why would you want to...
I don't know, but, like, Michael Lewis did one, and Michael Chabon's done one now. It's like, it seems to be the thing people are doing.
Yeah, when you were in college, did you ever do like a cross country trip or anything like that?
No. I mean, I grew up cross country for Healing Yourself to Live.
Right, but you did that later in life.
College. I never went anywhere for spring break. I never had enough money to do that. So like I remember it always kind of blowing my mind when it would be April and like all of a sudden people were going to Mazatlan. It just seemed like a totally impossible thing to do. But
yeah, my advice for all the younger people would be roll the dice with all those things when you have the time and the youth and all that stuff to do that. Because as you get older, it just gets tougher. This kind of turned into a depressing conversation. Wait, I have a question for you.
Okay.
If somebody's in a bookstore and they're on the fence about buying your book, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to read one chapter or one piece of it, and that will make me decide whether I want to buy the book or not, what would you recommend?
Well, that's a really difficult question. Why are they on the fence? Are they on the fence because A, they don't know if they'll like it, B, they've read other books by me and they're not sure if it's something they like, or C, they just don't know if they want to spend the money?
I would say part money and part maybe they listen to the BS report and maybe they haven't read a book that you've written yet. That's a possibility.
That's true. Books are expensive.
They are.
I have to say, it does seem weird to be selling, to try to convince people to spend $25 on something, even though that like on Amazon they're always on sale and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I don't know what. I mean, I could do it. I could come up with some reason, but I feel like if you look at the book and you read the back cover and you sort of page through it, it's either going to seem interesting to you or it's not going to seem interesting at all. And I have to admit, I don't want to sell my book to people who aren't interested in it. Because
I like the answer.
Sometimes that happens, and we've talked about this before. I really feel like that is a problem for all people who make records or books or films or whatever. I don't want to trick someone into buying my book. And what you're kind of asking me is, how can I convince somebody with no opinion to have one positively?
Yeah, that's a good point. Is there a favorite chapter that you have?
Well, I wrote an essay about the iconography of football, and that was definitely the most fun to write. There's two sports essays in the book. There's one on Ralph Sampson and one sort of like a philosophical meaning of football. And I really enjoyed writing that. I think that there's an opening essay about the process and the meaning of interviews. Like, I interview Errol Morris for it, and Ira Glass, and another guy. And I think for people who are interested in media, that they would probably if you're interested in culture and you're engaged with culture, and you read the first chapter, and you find that chapter interesting, you'll probably like the book itself. I feel like I did that piece I said about Kurt Cobain and David Koresh, which I'm finding in early reviews people aren't seeming to like, but I thought I was happy with that.
I liked it.
This book is a little. I mean, I gotta say I'm happy about this book. It's the first book I've written that, as I go back and read it, I don't feel immediately uncomfortable with certain parts of it. In every other book, that was the case. That immediately after writing it, I saw it came out, I would start reading it. There were things about it that, and of course, I mean, specific lines and stuff that I wish it could rewrite. But I mean, just the ideas. Sometimes I would feel like this isn't what I don't like the idea of just representing me in public or whatever. And I don't feel like this with this book. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what the response is. I've never had that experience before, where I feel good enough about it that I'm not at all interested. Well, I'm kind of interested, but I think I'm less invested in the response. But I feel more confident about it.
Interesting. So how much time are you going to take off before you work on the next one?
I've already started. Started last week.
Started last week?
Yep.
Did you do an outline, or did you do a whole, or is it an idea in your head they're going to work on?
I'm not going to talk about it with anybody until I've written 100 pages.
Good idea.
Because I feel like the thing is, if you start talking about ideas and then you quit, say you have the ideas, I'm going to write a book about, legacy of Jack Tatum or something, and then a couple months pass and you run into somebody and they're like, how's that Jack Tatum book going? And you're like, I quit. So I don't tell anybody until I know I'm going to finish. But I have started,
But you have delved into your routine again.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really because I was getting married, I was able to get out of everything. So I was sort of like, I can't work on the book right now. I can't, so I can't start on anything until, because I finished Eating the Dinosaur probably, I bet I finished it February.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I kind of have been hibernating until last week.
It's a weird thing to send a book off and then really nobody reads it but like 3 people for however many months it is. It's like really like sending a kid off to college and just kind of...
Well, I give it to a few people and have them read it, and then sometimes... Because the fears that I always have are that a point I'm making is either too abundantly obvious or too weirdly specific to me. Right. And I'm just always trying to... Or I guess the main thing is that sections are boring. So I'll give, like, the manuscript to people, and I'll say, you don't need to do a full edit on this, but just tell me which part was the most boring. And then I'll just remove that part.
Well, I like everything you write, though, so I'm probably a bad judge, but I thought it was really good.
Thank you.
It kept me invested. We should also mention...
Thank you for having me on and helping promote it, because this is a great promotional opportunity, and I love marketing.
We should also mention that you wrote something brief about Wilt Chamberlain for my book. You made a cameo.
I was very flattered to be asked.
It was like a Streets of San Francisco, where it's like the opening credits, and you're like, and Chuck Klosterman is Chuck. You wrote like this little Wilt thing, so there you go. Good luck with the book, Eating the Dinosaur, available October 20th. Bookstores everywhere, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, all the .coms. And we have to come back on and talk more sports next time.
Yeah, we always say that. We always end up talking less about sports. There was an abstract sports question I wanted to ask you, but I will save it for next time.
Save it for the next one. All right. Good luck with the book. Thanks.
Bye.
Target % off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.
You laughed, you cried, you turned up the sound repeatedly, and now it's all over. Thus concludes another installment of the BS Report. And with all this talk about sports, Bill Simmons neglected to mention this important just breaking news. The $5 footlong anthem rolls on with Subway everyday value. So many of your Subway favorites are $5 footlongs, like the Taste-tacular Spicy Italian $5 footlong and the Pile Ridiculously High BLT $5 footlong, both made to your order on the freshly baked bread of your choice.